Hey, chances are if you're watching this video, you've just checked out the fourth quarter of the Swan Song Manifesto newsletter. And so I decided to make this additional video. Well, because the Swan Song Manifesto is just a newsletter. You can't sit here and like write an entire script out for, going into an explanation of the archons and the demiurge. But I did kind of briefly touch on the subject, and this is why I'm linking the video, because I felt like more information needed to be added. This video is called Which Light is Right? A Ways to Avoid the Reincarnation Cycle. I think a lot of people are aware that after I realized I was a clone, and based on the understanding that I have taken in throughout the years, I have drawn my own conclusions. Now, in my newsletter, as well as some of the videos that I have made discussing the subject of reincarnation, I touch on the subject of the demiurge. And just to give you a little bit more information, I did talk a little bit about them in the newsletter, but giving you more of a definition, the deity is in Gnosticism and other religions, is a being that created the material world and is often viewed as the originator of evil. Now, there are different religious views on these particular demons, which I look at demons and aliens as kind of one and the same. Okay, like they are in the same category of the angelic creatures, whether they're good or bad, mainly because they do not come from here on the earth. They are from a different dimension, whatever. Okay, but the demiurge are basically demonic forces that are thought to have created and designed the platform that we live on. Okay, and also the demiurge is associated with a public magistrate in some Greek states. Now, just because this is a Greek idea, or it originated from the Greek culture, does not mean that this is specifically relating to Greek people. This is basically a demonic force that the Greeks recognized as what it does, what it has the capability of doing. Okay, this is something that could affect anybody, but I would say that the Greek people had more of an explanation as to what this is. So this particular demonic force, um, demons can attract or are attached to specific things. Some demons are specifically target children. Some demons, like succubes and incubus and succubus, they are target men and women, okay, depending on. And then we have demons that's, attach themselves to things like government systems. And this is what I believe the demiurge does and what it is. Now, the archons are actually created from the demiurge. Now, some people are very confused about the demiurge as far as being considered like a being, or is it like a multitude of beings, kind of like a legion of different demonic angels or something. I have known, like when I read about these topics, it seems as though it's described as both, and just like things relating to, like the Almighty God. No one's ever seen God, so there's a lot of um, filling in the blanks. Okay, all I can tell you about the demiurge and the archons for sure is that they're wicked and they're evil, and it's very hard to describe what exactly what kind of form it has, like whether it's just one or a bunch of them. I'm going to say that most of the time it's described as like the demiurge being one being that created these multiple beings of like the archons. Okay, however you want to see it. Okay, anyway, the archons are believed to be very malevolent, extremely sadistic, and they assisted the demiurge with the creation of the world. It is the archons that do what they can to keep people earthbound, meaning like preventing people from gaining their true salvation by creating some sort of net that prevents people's souls from going into heaven. This is what some people believe. Some people believe is the light. You know how like there's been certain movies that have depicted like a wandering soul, and you'll see like this person on the sidelines trying to encourage this soul into going into the light. Well, there's a lot of people who have been researching the subject matter, not just me, okay? And I know even my favorite guy, David Icke, has covered this topic briefly, and suspecting that perhaps maybe the light that is being encouraged to go into may be a trick of these particular archons into having people, like, for example, the archons have been studying you for a very, very long time, okay? Individually, okay? So they know how to trick people into seeing things and being lured into it. Like, for example, who's to say that while I was in the, I'm going to call it the state of ether, meaning I was not, I died in 1956 as C.B. Brigham, but did not arrive back into the earth until 1971. During this time, I'm like just running around in the heavenly state, being able to basically experience some sort of freedom, right? Well, what ends up happening is that, you know, you get contacted by these beings that are believed to wipe your memory clean before you go into the reincarnation process, okay? So these beings that are, that actually perform all this are suspected of being the archons or some other lower level entities that assist these particular groups, okay? Anyway, and by the way, you know, in some religions, like for example, the Islamic religion looks at these demonic forces and refer to them as like jinns. And then we have like, you know, in Christianity, they were referred to as demons and so on and so forth, okay? Now, anyway, these particular demons, or, yeah, I would call them demons, okay, are the ones that are responsible or suspected of being responsible for keeping people here, being reincarnated. Now, going back a little bit, in my newsletter, I briefly touch on the subject of a pact being made by the royal family many, many years ago. I'm going to say maybe perhaps going back to before Queen Victoria, okay? I forgot, I think it's Henry, or was it Henry? Okay, whatever. Anyway, these particular group of people wanted like power. They wanted to be able to feel like rulers, so they got interested in the subject of cloning people that they looked at as rivals. Okay, rivals of bloodlines. Okay, I come from a royal bloodline. I had just recently mentioned Eileen Warhorse in a video. She came from, I believe, a Scottish bloodline that was targeted. Basically, if you weren't one of them, you were going to get targeted, okay? They wanted to be the best, and so they thought it was a good idea to mess around, play God, and screw with people's DNA and bring them back, okay? Bring them back. And bring them back to serve the British family or the royal family at that time. And this is a tradition that continued on and on and on and on, and now we have what it is right now. And I know a lot of things ended in tragedy just recently, but it's important that I talk about this issue because of this, the serious nature of it, okay? To me, it's a very serious nature if you are not able to go to your eternal resting spot. You know, there's a lot of people who want to go to heaven, and they're being encouraged to align forces with these beings that are taking them and misdirecting them into a completely different destination. And this is the purpose of this video. Okay, in the previous slides, I was talking about the British families that were, you know, rather obsessed with having a lot of power, so they decided to get interested in cloning people and doing a lot of this sort of orchestrating these sort of things through religion. I didn't really touch so much on the religion in the last slides, but I was talking about the royal family members that played a big role in the cloning process, and I meant to mention George V. Unfortunately, the name escaped me at the time. So the depictions that I used in the previous slide were very generic. Unfortunately, I could not find any suitable images. I do apologize for that. So the reason why I wanted to talk about praying for the souls of the deceased is mainly because of the fact that there is the belief that the demiurge or the archons during the time of our death at some point call us back into the light, and while they are they're going through this transition period, that it is believed that our minds are erased while that happens in order to bring us back to the earth. And so I feel as though if we constantly pray for ourselves, number one, for ourselves, making sure that, we ask the divine forces to give us discernment so that we do not get tricked into making mistakes of being deceived by whether it be beings that are here on the earth or hereafter. Also, I thought it was important to, pray, and maybe not even necessarily pray, but to speak out loud to the loved one who is in the period of the heavenly state, meaning they may have passed on years ago, but they have no sign of being reincarnated. They could just be, in the spirit realm. But, just to protect them from having any future contacts with anybody, any entity that tries to lead them into the light. It's important to constantly stay focused, not constantly to where you feel it's preventing you from living your day-to-day life. But there are times when prayer is appropriate, and because of the nature of having the mind erased in the process, it does not allow a person to have any sort of defenses in that situation. So this is one of the reasons why I believe prayer for those individuals and prayer for ourselves is essential in order to protect ourselves against the archonic forces. Now, I also wanted to say that this issue of my targeting was one that was covert in nature for me, meaning it was something that was never supposed to be discussed. I was really never meant to know that I was Prince Alamehu. I was never even supposed to really know any of that. I was meant to be blinded and in the dark. One of the things that the archons love is to deceive people. They are considered to be trickster deities. And in order to get their way, archons are known to try to damage people because they focus and feed off of negative energy. This is one of the reasons why they thrive, and some of the heinous crimes that committed, people are shocked by. Then they ask themselves, who in the right mind would do something like that? For example, you see cases of people who torment and torture children to death, or people who orchestrate human trafficking rings, or people who abuse and rape and murder children ritualistically. This is the sort of energy that and entities that love this sort of stuff. They feed on fear, they feed on negativity, and they feed on all kinds of things that represent evil. So me going back to the issue of this issue being like covert to me, meaning like, I dealt with a lot of people who knew what was going on but still seemed shocked at how everything turned out, right? Because this was supposed to be a Christian, I guess, collaborative project with it as a group. Okay, a lot of people were mind controlled. Okay, and this is something that trickster deities do. They are experts at mind control, mainly because they gain the trust of a lot of people. So this was, like I said, when you put the label of Christianity on something, a lot of people think, well, this is about the good. This is the good. This is the light. This is the positive stuff. Well, this is where people can get deceived. Okay. Now, there's a lot of people who when I originally found out I was a targeted individual, I had talked about people thinking that I was supposed to be against people who served like Jesus and stuff like that. I've said this and I've said it again. Okay. I have never attacked the Christian religion. I've never attacked people who pray to Jesus. But I will say, I did discuss my experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses. I myself never really got into praying to Jesus, okay? But I never opposed anyone of doing that, okay? And, but I do know that this Christianity, okay, is a religion that revolves around Jesus, and it's very hard for me not to judge Christianity because of the representatives that I have seen from that religion have, for the most part, been very corrupt. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about prayer because a lot of people are now confused as to they just saw and witnessed something that was very deep. Okay, a lot of important people who were associated with my targeting are no longer here. Okay, and the reason why is because of divine providence. Okay, and a lot of people are not used to really understanding what is sacred. This is the biggest problem with mankind and their inability to have a good relationship with whatever you want to call it. You want to call God, you want to call it. Now, I think a lot of people, because of the bad example of these particular Christian individuals, are a little hesitant to use the name Jesus. I'm going to tell you that I have been in communication with a lot of the people who passed away in this tragedy. Okay, some of these people were, of course, associated with Nazism, but there were a lot of black people who died, and there were also other races who died in this. And I have made spiritual contact with them. Number one, I was concerned about their soul. Okay, why? Because the soul, I don't wish reincarnation process on anybody, even these people who stole from me. Okay, I know that these people have taken so much, not just my time on this life, but I also believe money was made from me and it was gone. Okay, so they had showed no remorse. I would also like to say that narcissism here on the earth, to me, is a spiritual manifestation of a serious psychological issue. But in terms of like the medical terms, I have to stay off of topics relating to the spiritual because they're not supposed to intersect. But in my world, when I'm talking to regular people or if I'm on my channel, this is where they intersect and I'm going to talk about it. Now in the secular world, because you can't talk about things like demons or something like that because it's a very hypocritical world. That's not supposed to be taken seriously. Unless, of course, you want to be labeled crazy. Okay, I know that much. Okay, so there's a lot of people who are very confused as to who they should pray to. I'm going to tell you this. Okay, the reason why I brought up the different races and the different kinds of people is because the reincarnation or the death process. Let's talk about the death process. The death process is the same for everyone. Okay, regardless of what these people told you, and I understand this. You have to understand that what you've learned throughout your life, especially in group settings, when it comes to religion, a lot of it was propaganda to make and deceive you into believing a certain thing to take advantage of you. Whether they needed you to be on their side to win a quote-unquote war or whatever, a lot of deception was there. Okay? Now, I'm never going to tell you who to pray to. Okay? But what I do suggest you doing in order to develop a relationship with the higher power, the universal forces, God, whatever, come to get to a point where you feel as though you can have a serious conversation, but do so with sincerity. Okay, just close your eyes and just understand that what happened in this situation in my targeting was indeed a divine act of providence, meaning that God, universal forces, whatever you want to call it, came in, stepped in, and handled a situation.
on my behalf, and it was a miracle. And this miracle, okay, should be enough proof for you to believe in these sort of things, okay? You don't have to know everything, but what you do is you just say, hey, you know what? I don't know everything, but I need to be able to know you enough, okay? Just start off really basic, but be sincere. And sincerity is a very difficult thing for a lot of people because they've had um, no concept of that. Because everything around them has always been basically a lie or some sort of illusion, some sort of trick or whatever. Okay, the God or whatever you want to, however you want to see it, just understand that there's something bigger than you, and that when you you're in communication, this is a time where you do not treat this particular being the same way you would a human being. This is sacred, meaning you don't try to outsmart it, you don't try to cheat it, you're truthful, okay? Because this is a being that can see right through you. Start there, okay? And then start building up your confidence that this being is real, and let yourself find your comfort zone in your communication. I will never tell anybody who to pray to, but I will say that if you are uncomfortable praying to Jesus, after experiencing this, I fully understand where you're coming from, okay? But the point of me, like I said, the point of me talking about the different races, which more importantly is the fact that some of these people, even though uh, uh, were supposed to be associated with the Christian faith, all still were in this particular state and able to communicate with me while in death. And they all reported that they were at peace. Okay. So that's important to know. Okay. But the transition period could call them back into a vessel. So the point of this is to pray out loud so that they have some sort of guidance. Okay. So what else did I want to talk about? Okay. Uh, okay. So yeah. This issue was a result of me being targeted for my bloodline, and because they use religion to facilitate the harassment and abuse, like I said, this is going to leave a lasting impression on a lot of people, and a lot of people right now feel turned off by calling out names that are associated with Christianity. I am not telling people who to pray to. All I'm saying is start from scratch. Start from like as if you never heard any name at all, but just understand that there is a God or there is a being that is more important than you, that is bigger than anyone. Okay, and once you start from that point, then that's really, to be honest with you, that's all you really need to know. Okay, I understand that you've been told that you have to be this, you have to be this. Man-made religion. Man-made religion. Okay? And man-made religion, and because man-made religion, there's a thing called the ego. And people have big egos. I will say that the people who merge forces with the dark archons and the demiurge, they had egos so bad that they wanted world domination to the point of where they were willing to bring back people from the dead to enslave them. Now, a lot of people might, what brings to my mind is like, you know, how there were depictions of hell, you know, in paintings and stuff like that, of an overlord that enjoys the torture of certain individuals. Okay, that right there, just even to desire something like that, it says volumes about who these people are. Okay, so anyway, to make a long story short, the purpose of prayer is to protect, whether you're praying for yourself or your loved ones,
from walking into the light and to protect them from leaving the heavenly state and coming back here to the earthly plane. Below in the description box is a list of various prayers that I have created to get you started if you're not familiar with how to pray or communicate with the dead and the deceased. A lot of it is just talking it out. Like, contrary to what a lot of us have been taught, especially if you're somebody who grew up in a organized religion, a lot of times people interject their own personal preferences when it comes to praying. So, some people, like, for example, use things like a rosary, and there's nothing wrong with using prayer beads to keep track of whatever recitals you're using. But my point is that, okay, we're talking about a being that is bigger than you, meaning that you feel like you need those little prompts, but the being that you're speaking to is highly intelligent and has no need for any of those things. You as a human need those things, and that's okay. That's okay. But you may have seen somebody doing something, and then you copycatted them, and now you feel like you're hindered of having a true spiritual connection because that's exactly what you did. You mimicked what you saw. So when it comes to me giving you an idea of how to pray, I'm not saying repeat this word for word. I'm basically saying that, okay, number one, it doesn't have to be anything formal. You don't have to be sitting in a certain stance. You don't have to be, you don't have to use rosaries. You don't have to. But if you feel like that's something that brings you comfort, or you feel like I said, in prayer, not everybody feels like they can concentrate. Not everybody feels that way. So because people are human, they're not perfect, their mind wanders or whatever, so they use things like that. Some people light candles because it makes them more comfortable during prayer. Okay, like I said, does God or the higher power need those things? No, but people kind of do. They use them all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. But because some people have witnessed other people doing it, then they started doing it. And like I said, when it comes to true spiritual connection, it has to be 100% you. So you can find your own way of communicating without any of that rigmarole if you feel as though it's unnecessary. This is the truth. Organized religion has corrupted and misguided so many people and hidden the true power that humans really have. Okay, I'm going to say this again. Yes, humans are spiritual beings to a certain extent. Not everybody has, like, huge spiritual gifts where they can read, like, okay, like I'm an extreme case, okay? But think about it. The occult is considered hidden knowledge for a reason. Okay, the reason why they hid the knowledge is because the people in religion didn't like people having that power. Okay, take away the power, give you a different idea, create a different reality for people, and it's easy to mislead you. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is what brings us right back to archons, people creating plans, devising schemes to deceive people. This is right along with it. Okay, now there are certain things, and yes, I do believe conformity has to exist on some level. Okay, a lot of people just painted me out to be a rebel. This was a part of the mind control and the brainwashing that was used so that people could assist these dark forces in persecuting me, to keep me ostracized, to keep me out. So this was a part of it. Okay, which now I'm very grateful that people are waking up and seeing the truth. But this is what it is. Okay, and it worked for a very long time. Why? Because of people not having discernment. People not having any point of reference as to what's true or not. And you know why? Because on some level, people allowed themselves to be deceived. Why? Because in some ways, it kind of felt good to be in the in crowd. What did we talk about? We talked about ego, right? Okay, when it comes to, this is what makes my spiritual connection to the higher power solid.
Okay, my ego gets put aside. Yes, people know that Maria loves herself. I love myself. I do. I love myself. This is another reason why I encourage people to love themselves. You know why? Because the archons and demonic forces feed off of negative energy. I'm going to say this again. The archons and the demiurge feed off of negative energy. We all know that earthly life is nothing but negativity. We wake up, we deal with the traffic, we deal with shitty, issues relating to people, stabbing us in the back. We get betrayed. I know, I just recently started my job, which I have to tell you, I do like it, okay? But in the past, I have experienced some pretty shitty work environments, okay? People get set up in certain relationships, people get abused, whatever. Earthly life is filled with suffering, okay? And guess what? The suffering that goes on in the earth makes these particular entities thrive. They are hungry for this sort of stuff. So this answers the question as to why things like ritualistic murder of children happen. Okay, dark forces are real. But on the other hand, so are the true light sources. Okay, and this is what all you need to focus on for now is that. Okay, all you need to do is focus on that. Focus on that. And so I did put a list of prayers in the description box. So while we're here on the earth, my lesson, my point is, when it comes to things like, I mentioned narcissism in some of my videos. I believe like a lot of the perps that I had to deal with did display, signs of narcissism. Okay, and when you dig down deeper down the rabbit hole, there's always something spiritual to me connected to this. Like I said, in the medical profession, we can't talk about those things. But on my channel, it's all about spirituality. And yes, I can see where spirituality merges in the medical world. Okay? So these narcissistic people, okay, rely on narcissistic supply. Just like the narcissist is hungry for their ego to be fed. So they love seeing and hurting other people, belittling them, doing whatever, because they feel good about themselves and builds them up. Okay? The same thing with archons. Archons get high and feel euphoric when they see people getting killed, when they see people getting murdered, when they see people getting, children getting all kinds of horrible things. And this is the sort of stuff, okay, that I see a connection to. I believe that narcissism is a result of some sort of demonic, and I'm not the only person who's been saying this. Okay, I've seen other people on YouTube videos talking about them suspecting the same thing. Okay, because when you see how over the top a narcissistic person is, you keep thinking, how in the world can they not understand how much they are really crossing these boundaries? It should be obvious, right? But they're so, fixated on themselves that it almost seems like you must be under some sort of spell of something really dark, okay? Anyway, but one thing they always talked about in dealing with narcissistic people, if you cut off their supply, meaning go no contact or whatever, you can shut their shit down. Okay, so I'm using the same sort of logic when it comes to the archons. So while people are still on the earth, yes, the archons, they love it when you're suffering. They love it when you're suffering. This is one of the reasons why I'm saying raise your vibration. Okay, still, and send the archons and all the other negative energy somewhere else. Okay, they love it when you hate yourself. They love it when you put yourself down. They love it. It's like a tender morsel to them. So find some self-respect and care more about yourself. For the deceased people or people who might be facing death, make sure that hopefully you have a strong family, and your family will understand that you need that sort of support. Okay, develop your spiritual strength as much as you possibly can. Okay, when it comes to the death process, if people are getting ready to cross over, I'm trying to make as many prayer examples as I possibly can. Even prayers for like, at the time of death, as well as funeral rite type prayers, and making connections to, like for example, memorial periods. Like sometimes people memorialize people a year after they died, or maybe just whenever you feel like it. You know what I mean? I think it's nice and a good idea to repeat prayers out loud as many times as you can when it comes to the deceased. And because we are in the season of like Halloween, even though Halloween is not really a day that is designated for Egyptian type people, okay, but Halloween is something that everybody here in the United States celebrates pretty much, okay? And because I do see a good a point in connecting with the dead, and obviously people from that time period saw the importance of connecting with the dead. But when I understand this issue of reincarnation and people coming back against their will, I really do see a point to talk to the dead. So the prayers are in the description box. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the description box. And I did want to add one thing. Talking to the dead can be very easy. You basically just talk to them like you would at any other time that they were there in front of you. Okay? And you probably want to do it in a space where you're by yourself, where people aren't really like looking at you. Same thing with prayer. And when it comes to prayer, like I said, you can just close your eyes if you want to say, call out to God. That's fine. If you don't want to even address the Almighty by the title, just understand that presence is there. Okay, that's all you have to start. I'm not going to tell you who to pray to. I did make some videos. It's called The Gods. It kind of touches on different cultural deities. Now, going back to cultural deities, some of those deities actually existed as real people, such as me, for example. I'm considered a deity, right? But they came in human form like myself. Okay, some of their deities were just personified emotions or things that they wanted to have. So they made up tales about a certain person that there's really no evidence that they existed. And then there are some beings that there were evidence of them actually existing. Okay. Now, some things are made and created into thought forms. Okay. But I will say this: when it comes to communicating with the divine, all of that information that's transmitted to and from you is actually coming from your mind. Okay. And it gets deeper than that, and I don't have time to go into it in this video. But for now, let me just tell you that if you witness what I went through, then you definitely know that there's something bigger than that. That's all you need to know for now. The prayers are in the description box. Thank you for watching.